So once again, very good afternoon to everyone. Hope you're feeling okay, having a good time, being safe and healthy and happy. My name is Felicia, and I'm from the Nature Society under the Marine Conservation Group. It is our absolute pleasure to kick off this sharing today on the Horseshoe Crabs of Singapore on the very first International Horseshoe Crab Day. So leading us in the discussion today will be a good friend and longtime volunteer of the Nature Society. But before I introduce him, just going to be some basic Zoom rules for the session. For those of you who are familiar with Zoom, you know that there is a chat box there, so you can put in your questions and we will address the questions only at the end of the presentation. We will try our best to go through as many questions as possible during the time frame that we have. If not, we would try to email you some of the pressing issues that you might be raising with us. Also, there is a participants list. If you recognize any of your friends in the list and you'd like to send them a personal chat, you can do so as well. I also ask that during the presentation, we have everybody's camera and microphone off. This is to help with the bandwidth because we have almost 100 or more participants joining us today. And we want to be able to make sure that everybody can hear us and have the session go smoothly. So, introducing our speaker for today, we have Lester Tan, who is a volunteer with the Nature Society, and he has been with us for about 11 years. He volunteers under the Marine Conservation Group, the MCG, which is one of the sub-interest groups under the Nature Society. And I'll allow Lester to speak a little bit more about the society itself when he begins. So with his dedication and passion to the work that he brings to the table, he now leads the Horseshoe Crab Rescue and Research Program. He has been constantly learning and advocating about these animals and their habitats through citizen science. And Lester started out as a volunteer, and then he became a member of the society. And now, most recently, he's also a member of the society's EXCO committee, executive committee. Lester is also a member of the International Union for Conservation of Nature Horseshoe Crab Species Specialist Group and the Asian Horseshoe Crab Working Group. So I'm very happy to have Lester share about the work that we've been doing and the work that he has been actively involved in. So I will hand it over to you, Lester.
Okay, thank you, Felicia, for introducing me. First and foremost, welcome everyone to today's talk on horseshoe crab, especially friends from all over the world, as far as the States and around the Asia region as well. I believe some of you are having your midnight and some lunch and dinner time right now. So without further ado, we'll start the talk. So today's a special day. Today's actually the first International Horseshoe Crab Day. So this is the first time we're celebrating International Horseshoe Crab Day, and it's today on the 20th of June. And so we have a series of talks going around by our friends and colleagues around the world. So do look out for us on the internet medium if we're sharing more about horseshoe crabs throughout the whole entire week. So today we're going to talk about horseshoe crabs of Singapore. And I'm from Nature Society, so I'll introduce you about who are we, what's Nature Society in a very general form before we move on into horseshoe crabs. So Nature Society it's an NGO, it's a non-government and non-profit organization. And we've been around for very, very long. What we do is literally doing conservation for nature, trying to keep natural spaces as natural as possible. So today we're going to talk about one of our species that we are protecting and conserving through the years. All right, so we move on to, give me a moment here. Okay. So today we're going to talk about horseshoe crabs, but we got to know what a horseshoe crab is. So I know everyone's mute. Perhaps at the back of your mind, you can start thinking to yourself, do you think horseshoe crab is a crab? Or do you think it's something else? Crustacean, perhaps? So horseshoe crabs can be found 480 million years ago. That's very, very long ago, way before the times of the dinosaurs. It's 480 million years ago. That's 6 zeros after 480. So it's a very long time ago. And a lot has not changed in the form of the horseshoe crab. It remains as a horseshoe shape throughout the long millions of years. And all the way to now. So horseshoe crab has been resilient through time, through changes, and through many changes to the world and the earth itself. And remember the question I asked you, if what do you think horseshoe crabs are? If they're a crab or a crustacean or something else you think. So horseshoe crabs are not exactly crabs. They're not crabs, not true crabs, nowhere near crabs. They're literally spiders and scorpions, more closely related to spiders and scorpions. I'll tell you why later on. Why are they more closely related to spiders and scorpions? And every time I share about horseshoe crabs closely related to spiders and scorpions, a lot of people start thinking, are they venomous? Do they bite? Are they poisonous? Do they sting? I'll answer all your questions later on in part of the presentation. So we have 4 different species of horseshoe crab throughout the world. The largest being the Atlantic horseshoe crab. So you could literally Google horseshoe crab, and that would be the first picture that you'll find. The Atlantic horseshoe crab is way larger than my face. And then we have the tri-spine horseshoe crab, or the Chinese horseshoe crab, which can be found throughout the Chinese waters. It's also slightly larger than my face, though my face not really huge, but it's large. Yeah. Then the last 2 species, we have them occurring in Singapore. So we have the coastal horseshoe crab and the mangrove horseshoe crab. So the coastal horseshoe crab can grow slightly about my face size, my head, yeah. And then we have the mangrove horseshoe crab that is no larger than a palm size, a full palm size, yeah. So we have 2 of these horseshoe crabs throughout our small tiny island in Singapore. So if you don't know where Singapore, we're literally at the tip of Malaysia for our international friends, which is that small tiny island at the tip of the country Malaysia. Yeah. So historically, we have both of these species found along our coastline, pretty much various parts of Singapore, from the northern shores, the east, western, and the southern shores of Singapore, during the times before reclamation has started yet. So we have our natural beach line, or natural mangrove and mudflats during the kampong days. People will literally see horseshoe crab along the shoreline right outside their house. So I'm going to talk more about horseshoe crabs first. So they have some quite unique features, and I find them very cute. And maybe some of you might find them a bit strange. So they do have 10 eyes, not 10 pairs, 10 eyes. So you can see in the picture, I've circled some areas where the eyes can be found. So they have 2 huge compound eyes, and they use that to find their mates for mating. And they have more light sensing organs as well. So they have 5 more eyes on the top of their shell, with 2 median eye, 2 lateral eye, and 1 endo eye. So just right at where the big circle is, that's where you can find 5 eyes over there. And then you see I've circled 1 around the end of the tail, at the tail area. They have photoreceptors there for them to sense light, the cycle of light, and also ultraviolets. So they can look through the night as well. So they have 2 more eyes just right below the horseshoe crab near the feeding mouth. They can literally find food with those pair of eyes over there. So there you go, 10 eyes on the horseshoe crab. So the next time you see a horseshoe crab, don't try prying into the horseshoe crab and see if you can find 10 eyes on it. Quite literally, you can just see the 2 huge compound eyes. So compound eyes are just like houseflies, where you have many parts of it to form one eye. All right. So the rest are just like receptors or sensors that helps horseshoe crabs sense high tide, low tide, to sense day, night, if they are being flipped upside down, are they upright, and also for them to find food. So they have also legs. They have 5 pairs of legs, so 10 legs to move around. And they have 2 feeding arms. Just right where the circle are, you can see 2 small little pincers that help put food into their mouth. So also where the circle is, on the left, you could literally see the mouth just right in the middle of it. So what makes it so special and closely related to spiders and scorpions is that every part of the mouth is attached to a leg. So like humans, we have the upper jaw and the lower jaw. For insects, we have the mandible, upper, lower, left, and right, whichever species that they have, whether left, right, or the up and down. Whereas for the horseshoe crab, they have pretty much 10 parts of their mouth, and each of these mouth is independently attached to a part of a leg. So they chew when they move around. So whenever the leg starts moving, crawling, it's literally where the mouth are grinding each other and they're just chewing away their food. So when we talk about food, then what do horseshoe crabs eat? They're bottom feeders. So they just dwell on the mud flat and literally feed off anything, both dead and alive small organisms that you can find on the mud flat. All right. And like I said, when we talk about spiders and scorpions, a lot of people start thinking if they are venomous, if they are poisonous. I'm just going to show you a small little clip right here. So what you can see is that the horseshoe crabs is trying to upright itself with its tail. So they do not use the tail for stinging or to inject poison, neither are they venomous to us as well. They use the tail to upright themselves. And therefore the tail is really, really important because horseshoe crabs swim upside down in the waters using their hook gills. So they swim like this. And whenever they come up to shore during the low tides, they will crash onto the mud flat, most likely upside down. They would then rely on the tail to upright themselves. So the defense mechanism of a horseshoe crab, apart from the spiky spikes that they have, they're actually very hard as well. So their hard carcass or their hard shell helps predators from penetrating into their internal organs and also onto the soft parts of a horseshoe crabs. So now you know what horseshoe crab eats and how they move and what the tail is used for, how many pairs of eyes they have. We want to know their gender as well. How do we then tell apart from the horseshoe crab what their gender is? So for many other species, they have differentiation from colors to signs to organs, sexual organs. But for the horseshoe crabs, it boils down to that 2 pairs of legs that they have. So the 2 frontmost pair of the legs, right? You can see where the circle is. So they're very, I would say, biased to the males. The males have very strong muscular legs and arms, yeah, the 2 pairs of it. So you can see them actually bulging out compared to the slim pairs of legs that the female have. So you might be wondering why are they having this huge muscular legs for? You might be thinking perhaps they use it for fighting, for grabbing stuff. You're just a little bit right if you're guessing that in that way. The male horseshoe crab literally use that 2 pairs of legs to grip onto the female on the lowest carpus during mating season. So later on, further down the slides, you will see mating pairs in the pictures. And you see how the horseshoe crab literally grip onto the back of a female. And they will follow the female around during the mating season. So when the female horseshoe crab has eggs and is ready for fertilization, they will start seeking out their mates, their boyfriends, their soon-to-be husbands. And they will go around. So the male horseshoe crab will cling onto the female horseshoe crab, and will follow the female horseshoe crab until the female horseshoe crab finds a good spot to lay its eggs. And the male horseshoe crab that's attached onto the female horseshoe crab will have the first chance to fertilize the eggs externally. Yeah. So sometimes through phenomenal times, I've seen more than one male attached onto a female. And we do not really know what the end result would be. It might be a long struggle between a dominant male, between that group of males that we have. And sometimes we get more than just two males. Sometimes we get three males vying over a female. They do drag along with the female for a period of time before both of them fall off and just living with one last horseshoe crabs. So because of that, male horseshoe crabs are generally smaller. For some horseshoe crabs, for some female horseshoe crabs, they can go around for long periods of time without laying their egg because they just can't find a good nesting spot. And the male who is very determined to be mating with this female would not let go of it. And in that case, you could see that the horseshoe crab have their mouth just right at the bottom of it. So when you attach onto the female, the mouth is literally on the top of the female lower carpus of the lower shell. And that in that sense, the male horseshoe crab can't feed. So over long periods of time, perhaps the female gets to feed and the male does not get to feed. So the male does not get to put on weight and does not grow in size. That's one possible theory why the male horseshoe crabs are generally smaller than the female horseshoe crab, and especially when they are mating as well. All right, so we talk about male and female. Then we want to know about the age group. So can we tell them apart if they're young, if they're old, if they're a juvenile or a baby? So we can tell them apart from being a baby to a juvenile for the mangrove horseshoe crabs. So for the mangrove horseshoe crab, we have data showing that the smallest male mangrove horseshoe crab is 7.4 cm. So that's the smallest recorded male horseshoe crab that we have. So over the years, we have not found anything larger than 7.4 cm. So therefore, we try to conclude that juveniles are literally smaller than 7.4 cm and below. So those are all juvenile horseshoe crabs. Whereas beyond that measurement would be the adult horseshoe crabs. And then we will then figure out if they're a male or female. However, we can't really tell if they're really, really old just by picking up a horseshoe crab, but we can tell by the organisms that attach to their shell. So the older horseshoe crabs tend to molt much slower, and the period between molting is longer. So horseshoe crab molts for them to grow, and they molt several times throughout their periods of from their juvenile stage to their adulthood, for them to grow into a nice palm size for the mangrove horseshoe crabs. And to a point where their growth will start to drop and decrease, that's where they start to molt lesser. And in the event of molting lesser, they will have other organisms hitching a ride on them. So the most common organisms that we can find on them are the barnacles, then some mussels, and you might actually find some other creatures of them as well. So then we want to know where would they live? Where can we find them? I will not exactly tell you where we can really find them, but I'll give you a general idea of the habitats that they live and the possible areas that you can actually go down, have a walk in a park, and have a look at them. So mangrove horseshoe crabs are mangrove specialists, or rather they like the mudflat a lot, and they can be found throughout the island on the mudflat area and the mangrove area. The unfortunate part that by looking at this map, you can see there are not a lot of green areas, especially by the coastline. So you want to look at the northwestern part of Singapore where they have a larger density of mangrove forests and mudflats that's still being found. Those are very good spots to find mangrove horseshoe crab. A good place would be Sungai Buloh Nature Reserve. We'll talk more about that later on. So you can head out there during the weekends and try to look down onto the mud when it's low tide and you might find 1 or 2 mangrove horseshoe crab looking around in the open for you to look at. Most of the time, the horseshoe crabs tend to burrow themselves deep into the mud to escape from predators. So if you're not trained to look at horseshoe crabs, you might not be able to spot one. And for the other species, the coastal horseshoe crabs can be found on coastal shorelines. That would be the sandy shores where we have our beach activities. So as we all know, a huge part of Singapore is reclaimed. A lot of our beach line is no longer natural. And over the years, the population of coastal horseshoe crab has dwindled. And however, during the recent years, more and more people are having sightings of the coastal horseshoe crabs along our shores. So perhaps one day at East Coast Park, if you're having a nice swim or a picnic, you might see a coastal horseshoe crab just sitting along the beach line. And if you do take a picture and post on Facebook so everyone can know and enjoy that sighting as well. So now we know more about horseshoe crabs, literally what they eat, how they are, how they look like, why they look like this, and their features. So we want to know why are they important as well. So horseshoe crab is part of the ecology of the coastal community, just like the fishes, the prawns, the mussels. They form a very huge food chain, and they form part of the ecosystem as well. So the most basic form of horseshoe crab will be food. So it could be food for the humans, and it also can be food for the animals and organisms that live in the coastal community. So that will include our shorebirds, especially in the States, of the Atlantic horseshoe crabs, where there are recordings of the red knot feeding off the eggs of the horseshoe crabs. And most definitely, the horseshoe crab eggs in our local shores are also eaten by our fishes and other crustacean life that live along the coastline. So these eggs are literally rich in protein. It could help other animals, keeping them full. And on top of that, we also eat horseshoe crabs, especially in the Asian regions, where humans actually consume horseshoe crabs, from the coastal horseshoe crabs, the tri-spine horseshoe crabs, and also the mangrove horseshoe crabs. And mangrove horseshoe crabs are actually toxic. They're toxic. They have toxin. They have neurotoxin. So literally, if you consume mangrove horseshoe crab, you can literally die from it. Neurotoxin affects the brain. And however, we found out that the villagers or fishermen who eat mangrove horseshoe crab seem to know which mangrove horseshoe crab contains high amount of neurotoxin or low amount of neurotoxin. So they are able to pick up horseshoe crab just by the look of it, and they know that this particular horseshoe crab has a lesser neurotoxin, and they will literally bring it back home to eat. And during the olden days in Singapore as well, during our forefather days, members of the kampung days, they would literally head out to the shorelines and they grab horseshoe crabs, both the coastal and the mangrove, and bring it back home, and they'll fry it along with some eggs, and that would be their food source. So for a long period of time, through culture, through food income, horseshoe crab has become part of our diet as well. We're good to say that in Singapore, we do not really consume horseshoe crabs, but we do have a couple of restaurants that's still selling horseshoe crabs, as I've known the last few years. Then you guys would be wondering if horseshoe crab is illegal to consume in Singapore. I can say that fishing horseshoe crab is illegal. So if you happen to have horseshoe crabs in your crab traps or your fishing net, please do release them as well. So apart from food, horseshoe crab is important in the medical industry. So for many of us, we have read that horseshoe crab bleed blue blood. Some of us know that they provide some benefits to the medical industry. And you're all right about that. They bleed blue blood because of their copper compound. So if you want to know more about that, you can actually try to Google online it's a little bit complicated if you do not understand. So the blood oxidizes and it becomes blue. Okay. So why is it important in the medical industry? Is that humans are always when we're exposed to bacteria and the toxins, we become sick, and we do know that we get a lot of injections throughout the years. Even right now, when vaccines of COVID-19 is being formulated, and even without that, during our childhood to adulthood, we are also having injections. So these injections go through testing, and the testing of bacterial compounds in it, and they use horseshoe crab bloods to literally do the test. And the two species of horseshoe crab that's commonly used right here, it's the Atlantic horseshoe crabs and the tri-spine horseshoe crabs. But of course, why are they using both of those horseshoe crabs? Is because they're generally larger, and larger animals contain more blood than the smaller ones. So if we were to run out of Atlantic horseshoe crab and the tri-spine horseshoe crab, no doubt we will definitely start using the coastal horseshoe crabs, and perhaps one day the mangrove horseshoe crabs if we need to. So right now we do have substitutes for both of this. As you may have read it over media over the last few years ago. We have synthetic blood type, and it's still up for approval. So hopefully, eventually that goes through and could be replaced with horseshoe crab blood. Then we do not need to look at this painful picture over here where we literally bleed horseshoe crab blood. So a lot of people start asking if bleeding a horseshoe crab blood is sustainable. I'm pretty sure they're not very sustainable. A huge number of them goes back to the wild, and with a loss of blood, they do not have just like us. If we go for blood donation right after blood donation, we feel weak. We are unable to walk very well. Some of us feel very dizzy. I believe the same symptoms can be found in the horseshoe crab as well. So when we release them back to the wild, they are unable to fend for themselves and eventually do not live to their full life expectancy. And in that case, we are shortening the lifespan of horseshoe crab if we continue this blood bleeding. But however, we really need to rely on their blood for the testing of our medical equipment and for the drugs that we are taking for our health. So moving on, apart from all this importance of horseshoe crabs, now we know how horseshoe crabs looks like, why they're important. We also want to understand the threats that they face. So why are we talking about horseshoe crabs today? Why are we celebrating Horseshoe Crab Day? Everyone knows when we're celebrating something, it's because they're important, or because the population of a certain species has declined, and we are doing a lot of effort trying to conserve this species. So in Singapore, we have a couple of number of threats that a horseshoe crab face. You can see one of the picture, the horseshoe crab has actually a very awkwardly bent tail. And we'll talk about that later on. So the first obvious threat would be the ghost nets. Yeah, so ghost nets are literally fishing nets abandoned by fishermen. We have fishermen along our coastline from Malaysia, from Singapore, and a lot of times these fishermen do carelessly lose their nets, or they maybe just irresponsible and abandon their own nets just right off into the waters without thinking of the consequences that they might face. So these ghost nets floats around and eventually grabs onto some of the prey, some of the marine organisms in it. And more often than a time, when this ghost net floats around, when it sinks to the bottom of the sea because of some huge objects, horseshoe crab tend to tangle themselves into one of these ghost nets. So all you need to do is just have one female horseshoe crab attached to a ghost net. And during the mating season, the male horseshoe crabs would then come and start looking for this female horseshoe crab. And over time, one horseshoe crab can then snowball to a huge ball of horseshoe crab that you can see in the image over here. So we took up a lot of time trying to free these horseshoe crabs. So when we're lucky, these horseshoe crabs are lucky if we're there. If we are not, then they are unable to fend for themselves. They do not have pincers. They do not have any parts of their body able to cut through the ghost nets. So they just drown. Drown as in they will die from food. They will die from the sun. They do not get to swim around. They just get stuck to the bottom of the sea. And all day and night, they just be stuck there until they eventually suffocate, or they die from hunger, or they get toast from the sun and eventually die. The good news is that I'll share with you something later on about these ghost nets and what we have done for these horseshoe crabs trapped in ghost nets. Next, what we have is developments. So in developments, we have a couple of things right here. In this one image alone, we can see a huge amount of marine debris, from big marine debris of plastics to styrofoams to microplastics. And also we can see a fence right behind us and constructions going on in the background. So this image does sum up all the development threats that a horseshoe crab can actually face. So long ago, the shorelines of the northern part of Singapore, they are not fenced. And due to the security of the nation, the Marine Coast Guard decided to put up a fence in between the mainland and the coastline. So by doing that, it helps reduce the populations of fishermen fishing on the mudflat, on the habitats of the horseshoe crabs. And at the same time, with the reduction of fishermen, we have the reduction of ghost nets and marine debris. And eventually, with that, the reduction of ghost nets and marine and abandoned fishing rods, crab traps have reduced, and they have also reduced part of the ghost net threats that the horseshoe crabs are facing. However, it does not help solve the marine debris thing. We can still see a lot of marine debris being washed up to the shores, and people are still tossing their takeaways off the fence. Highly unlikely that this trash can float in from the shorelines from across the straits, because a lot of these products are found locally as well. And behind in the background, you can see construction going on as well. So with the construction going on, we have a lot of sewage waters being discharged, or some of the dumping of dirty waters into our mudflats. Yes, there are laws that helps protect the dumping of such waters, but however, throughout the years, we still notice more or less some accidental dumpings, or perhaps just some illegal dumpings as well. And on top of that, developments can also mean neighboring coastal developments. So developments over in Malaysia, right at Dangar Bay, where they built a couple of good high-rise buildings, condominiums. So during the time of building, we require sand. A lot of this sand are all being piled up along the coastline. Being by the coast, there are strong winds and waves. A lot of these sands get to wash out from their barriers. And when sands are being washed away, they have to find their way. They'll find their way onto a shoreline eventually. And unfortunately, we happen to be right across the shore, and it will be washed onto our shoreline. And over the time, the sedimentation of our mudflat has changed. So imagine you having lived in a mudflat, and suddenly overnight you get influx of sand coming into your mudflat, and your mudflat will not be the same anymore. So we'll talk about that more later on, and how these changes has affected the horseshoe crabs. And on top of that, everyone knows that mudflats are also up for developments for housing, for any shopping malls, for building of roads. In a lot of government contexts, mudflats are rather deemed as a rather not profitable land compared to perhaps a rainforest. or in mangrove. So a lot of time, governments will start to remove mudflats for developments. So these are the impending threats that the horseshoe crab can face in terms of losing their habitats to the different developments of mankind, different developments that's happening around their habitats as well. Then we have the next one would be the invasive species. Yeah, especially the mussels. So right in 2016, at the beginning of 2016, we have a huge influx of invasive mussels, and they came in perhaps through ballast water of shipping, or perhaps through fishermen. We do not know how they make their way all the way here. So this particular mussel is called Mytilus striata, and it can be found all the way from South America. So it hitch a ride across the shores and find their way onto our shorelines in Singapore. And over the span of a few months, give me a moment here, perhaps whoever's drawing could stop drawing. That would be very great for us, all right? Okay, back to it. So when these mussels came in, they start to blanket the entire mudflat. And what you can see over here happened in a short span of perhaps 6 months. And the full mudflat of the northwestern shores of Singapore are entirely covered with mussels. It's really, really horrible. And these mussels are taking up every inch and centimeter of the mudflat. And on top of that, you can see the horseshoe crabs have mussels attached to the bottom and underneath of the horseshoe crab. What I did not show is that the mussels are also attached onto the book gills, and with that, it definitely weighs the horseshoe crab down when they're swimming or when they're moving, and it prevents them from moving with their legs as well. And when these mussels are attached to gills, they're unable to breathe properly. And mussels have threads that spread out as well. So this mussel was then attached onto more mussels and more mussels and more mussels, and you have a clump of mussels that's attaching onto the horseshoe crabs. And eventually, having a clump underneath you start to either weigh down, or you're unable to flip that up when you're on the mudflat, upside down. So over time, these mussels will then kill the horseshoe crabs in terms of causing them to starve because they're unable to flip themselves upright, or it can also help make them sink to the bottom of the waters. And yeah, it's really, really horrible. So our rescue effort was actually to just literally rip off the mussels of the horseshoe crabs as much as we can find. However, we can't be there on the shoreline every other day, so there tend to be some huge amount of casualty as well. So on top of that, remember I said about mussels being attached to every inch and cm of the mudflat. That also prevents horseshoe crab from burrowing underneath the mud as well. And they are unable to escape from their predators. So you might be wondering, who eat horseshoe crabs? In Singapore, we have the crows. Most definitely the crows. We have the crab-eating macaques or the long-tailed macaques. Those are known to eat horseshoe crabs as well. So the horseshoe crabs will burrow themselves into the mud, not very deep, quite a few 5 cm or perhaps 10 cm deep into the mud usually, just enough to cover themselves. Yeah. So while unable to bury underneath the mud, they are also unable to find food source, where areas where huge amount of mussels are clustered together. So over the time, we can see huge decline in the population from 2015 all the way to now. Yeah, the horseshoe crab population has definitely declined. We're hopeful that the horseshoe crab has actually shifted their habitats towards the left, towards the west of Singapore, further down to the mudflats where there are less mussels invading onto the shorelines. So you might be wondering, what have we been doing with all these mussels then? Is the situation still the same? I'm happy to say that it's no longer the same. So these invasive mussels have actually started to stabilize. So by stabilizing, the mussels have actually died out, and they have taken up a space on some parts of the mudflat and stay within that boundary of theirs, and their population tend to be in that amount throughout the year. So there will not be a huge rise or where the mussels would just start to overpopulate itself again over the mudflat. So over time, the mudflat has also slowly recovered as well. Then be wondering also, with all these threats that's going on, how is our horseshoe crab doing in Singapore? So the mangrove horseshoe crab is listed as vulnerable under the Singapore Red Data Board, and the coastal horseshoe crab is listed as endangered. And however, this board is taken, the list is taken 10 years ago, so we've yet to do a review. So we're hopeful that the new review, we can understand more about the horseshoe crab population right now compared to 10 years ago. On an international scale, we're actually data deficient. So by data deficient means we do not have enough data to put together the populations of horseshoe crab throughout the world. So we have 4 different horseshoe crabs in the world, 2 of which have status to it. That would be the Atlantic horseshoe crab and the tri-spine or Chinese horseshoe crab. And the last 2 would be the coastal horseshoe crab and mangrove horseshoe crab, where the Asian horseshoe crab working group is actually working together closely, and hopefully as soon as possible we're able to put a status to this horseshoe crab. So what does it really mean to have a status to horseshoe crabs? Why do we need to know whether they're vulnerable or endangered? So the importance of it is for us to actually lobby with our government, or actually for us to come up with policies, whether we know we should protect them, what's the urgent need to protect these horseshoe crabs. With this status, we are better able to convince our governments to set aside policies to protect the horseshoe crabs and the habitats as well. So that was all for horseshoe crabs in general, in Singapore, where we talk about what they look like, why they're important, what are the threats they're facing. Eventually, we want to talk about what we have been doing as well, the conservation part of horseshoe crabs. So since 2007, a long time ago, a group of birders or bird watchers happened to stumble upon some horseshoe crab out on mud flats in the northwestern shores at Kranji and Mandai as well. So during a bird watching activity that they have. So they were there looking out for shorebirds, and they just happened to stumble upon the horseshoe crabs. And that one occasion of looking at one magnificent horseshoe crab lead on to more visits to that mangroves and mudflat, and they start to notice a lot of them being trapped in fishing nets. And there's actually a huge amount of horseshoe crab going around in that northwestern area. And a lot of these folks are old, so they lived through their forefathers' times or their grandparents' time, and they have kampongs, and during kampong days they do see horseshoe crabs. And over the developments of over the years, they start to miss out the horseshoe crabs. They do not see them until eventually they stumble upon them on the northwestern shores, and that happened to sparkle some initiative to actually rescue horseshoe crab trapped in fishing nets or abandoned ghost nets. And from that one small little effort, it grew into something more. We started out to do some basic research and more sophisticated research to help improve and understand our horseshoe crab. So none of what I've shared, none of which I could share, I'm able to share without all of this initiative that's been done over the years. So in this program, what do we do right now? We head out to the northwestern shores, as you can see in the circle over there. So this is the northwestern shore. You can see the circle over there is the Kranji mudflat, and then slightly to the left is the Sungai Below Wetland Reserve, and further down would be the West Cashmere area. So a lot of these areas are not reclaimed, and they are as natural as we can get in Singapore, apart from the prawn farms and some minor fishing jetties here and there. And this would be the exact area where we're doing the horseshoe crab research and rescue program. So what we do in the program, we literally head out to the mudflat to look for horseshoe crabs, to find them, and then when we pick them up, we want to measure them. We measure their size, we want to record their gender, we want to know how many can we find in one session in a transect area. So we try to do it as much as scientific as possible. So it's a citizen science program where members of public can actually join us, and any of us can volunteer with us. I will post some links later on and share some ways that you can actually help us as well. So our participants head out there, they collect the horseshoe crab, they measure them, they record them. And at the same time, we also observe the habitat itself and what's happening to the horseshoe crab. So the invasive mussels was noticed by us because we're out there, and over the time, we see these changes and we start documenting these changes, and this is how we can actually help in conserving horseshoe crab as a citizen of Singapore, right? So, oops. Okay, so apart from that, we also tend to write publish papers, research papers after that. So after all the data collection that we have, we'll publish papers. So far, we have published 5 papers. So all data that's done by our volunteers have been compiled into 5 research papers, and we also provided this data onto an international level. So NSS has actually put up a motion for horseshoe crabs back in 2012. That's where the formation of the IUCN Specialist Group for Horseshoe Crab has started. So with all the data that we have, we continue to provide the IUCN, and this provides them with the status for the horseshoe crabs, the population of horseshoe crabs, as well as we share our scientific research methods with our friends and colleagues throughout the world as well. So, flowing down, the Mandai mangrove and mudflat has also been conserved as a nature park over the many years with the data of horseshoe crabs and also the importance of shorebirds. So what we did not highlight over here, because we're all about horseshoe crabs today, is that this specific area is associated with migratory shorebirds, and it's an important bird area or important biodiversity area where huge numbers of migratory shorebirds actually land and feed on them, feed on the mudflats, not on the horseshoe crabs. Okay, and over the years, with these 2 huge major reasons, we have managed to conserve the mudflat as a nature park, and this park has been slated to open in the mid-2022. So perhaps with the COVID-19 moving on, we might be a little bit late on the opening. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what you can do after you listen about everything about horseshoe crabs, from their threats, what we've been doing, the volunteer efforts that we have, the good work that everyone has been doing. Everyone else here can actually bring home 3 things. You can refrain from eating horseshoe crabs, especially when you go on your holiday trips to Thailand, to Malaysia, to the neighboring ASEAN countries, where horseshoe crab is actually a delicacy. We can help them by not consuming them and reducing the demand for horseshoe crab as delicacies. And it will also do very good benefit to us if we could stop sharing horseshoe crabs as food source, as delicacy. So we want to highlight that that horseshoe crab is not our main food source, and we truly do not need to rely on horseshoe crab as part of our delicacy. And you also can join us with your different expertise. So we don't have to be a scientific officer, you don't have to be a biologist, a marine biologist, or ecologist to actually help us in our program. I myself, I'm not trained in science, nowhere in the science stream. But yeah, you can always provide your expertise in IT, in marketing, in various professions in the workforce to help us with this program. So our citizen science program with Horseshoe Crab Research and Rescue program is not just a science program. It's a program that we try to bring out to members of public. We do advocacy work as well. We share members of public, and a lot of this require IT knowledge, marketing knowledge. So if you have any expertise that you think you can share with us with your skill sets, do feel free to email us or contact us and join us as well. And also, the most basic thing I think you could do for us is that you can share your sightings with us on our Facebook page. So if you were to see a mangrove horseshoe crab or a coastal horseshoe crab, you could just take a picture of it and post it on our Facebook. Or you can also share it on iNaturalist. So it's an app. I'll put it on later on in the chat. So you could go to Google Play Store or Apple Play Store and download iNaturalist, and you take a picture and upload it, and then you tag it into horseshoe crabs, and I'll be able to see the horseshoe crabs that you share. So the importance of sharing these sightings is allow us to collect data of where this horseshoe crab can be found throughout the islands. A lot of these sightings of coastal horseshoe crabs would not have been possible if people are not sharing their sightings with me. So over the long periods of years, we've collected the good data of where this horseshoe crab can be found. And by knowing where they can be found, we can then better choose the right habitat and the right area to conserve and protect, so that we can protect these horseshoe crabs as well. So with that, thank you for attending today's talk. It might be a little bit jittery. It's nonetheless a little bit strange to be speaking online and not on a physical talk. So thank you for bearing with me with all the awkward moments I had throughout the talk. And I'd like to say a big thank you to all past leaders. I believe some of them are in this chat as well. And all past and present leaders, volunteer leaders, and also members of public who spend their time coming down to Mount Flat, helping us with this program, and also attending all our talks and advocacy programs throughout the many, many years that we have. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, so we're going to have some Q&A.
Thanks, Lester, for that very informative talk. I think everyone is very much interested in what you have been sharing with us. So we have lots of questions. I'm going to try and pick out some. We'll start from some of the earlier ones. It's a little bit more biology-based for now. So King asks, why do they need so many eyes in different places? I'm going to just clump these questions together because they're all about the biology of the animal. Francis asks about the function of swimming upside down and how long does the male latch on to the female?
Very good question. Unfortunately, I don't think I know why horseshoe crabs swim upside down. From what I understand, is that horseshoe crab uses their boot gills to swim. So I guess the weight of the horseshoe crab might have caused them to be swimming upside down instead of upright. We'll be interested to find out more about that as well. Next would be how long do they latch onto? For the mangrove horseshoe crab, we do not have any research done on it, as far as I'm concerned. Well, we do not have the time and capabilities to actually follow the horseshoe crabs around. But that would be one area for us to find out as well. Yeah. Do we have, yeah.
Yes, Lester, so maybe you can answer the question about why they have so many eyes.
Okay. Very interesting questions you guys have. So I believe that horseshoe crabs have many eyes because they're kind of flat, and they tend to move around in areas where it's muddy, and I would say the environment is literally very harsh. And each of these eyes are placed at very crucial part of the horseshoe crabs, where it enables them to do a certain function that the eyes allow them to, say, look for food, to find mating pairs, to know whether it's day or night, to know whether it's a high tide or low tide. So I would believe that just having one pair of eyes with all the function attached to just two spots of the body will not be able for the horseshoe crab to maneuver around the water and mud as efficiently as having them spread out throughout. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to another question, also based on the biology. Can you share the differences between the mangrove and the coastal species, and what lifespan do they normally have, and at what age do they start breeding?
Okay, so the difference between a mangrove horseshoe crab and a coastal horseshoe crab, the one major difference would be size. The next major difference would be the tail. So the tail or telson of the horseshoe crab, of a mangrove horseshoe crab, is round and smooth, as smooth as your finger, or perhaps even smoother than our skin. Then we have the coastal horseshoe crab, which have jagged edge, or rather sharp comb spikes. So if you were to brush your finger along it, you will get cuts from it. And it's also triangular. So I tend to think shapes are more subjective. Some people feel triangular shapes can be circle, some circle shapes can be triangular. It'd be nice if we try to look at the shape and also the spikes and the different morphological of the horseshoe crab in terms of their size, and also their spikes throughout their carcass as well. The coastal horseshoe crab tend to be spikier and larger, and they tend to be less brown as well in terms of coloration. Next would be talking about their lifespan. So for the mangrove horseshoe crab and the coastal horseshoe crab, I believe they do live up to 20-ish years, right in the wild, without all the different traits that we've spoke of. And the last question, it's the last part of it is, what was it again? Sorry, Felicia.
What age do they start breeding?
What age do they start breeding? As soon as they reach their mature adulthood, for the mangrove horseshoe crab, it's actually 7.5 cm and above. So that would take about a couple of years. I'm not exactly sure right now at the back of my mind how many years exactly they take for them to reach that size. Yeah, I can get back to you if you need to know about it. Yeah.
Thanks, Lester. So moving on, I'm going to group some of these questions again. There are some questions regarding the use of horseshoe crabs for medical testing. So participants would like to know whether Singapore conducts any of these testings and drawings of blood, and if there are ethical ways of doing so.
As far as I'm concerned, I do not know of any companies that's actually using horseshoe crab blood in Singapore. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows about it. As far as I also know, that Singapore is one of, we are the one who created the synthetic blood from the US, and that's the only alternative out there right now for horseshoe crab blood. So yeah. Do we have the next question?
Yes, Lester. Jacob has asked if we tag some horseshoe crabs to track their movement and distribution. You'd
Yes,
like to talk a little bit about that?
back in a couple of years ago, I think probably a decade ago, we the previous team had actually tagged horseshoe crabs by GPS. So back then, technology was not as advanced right now. We definitely do not have Zoom. So back then, they used antenna GPS, and we are able to track the horseshoe crab movement in between the straits of Johor. So we're able to see that horseshoe crab interact across the straits along the shoreline towards the west as well. That was our only tagging that we had from Nature Society. In the recent months, I believe other organizations have attempted to tag the horseshoe crabs as well. So moving forward, we would love to also re-tag the horseshoe crab and examine more about their movement as well. Yeah.
Okay, so Halik asks, are there any plans to expand the program to other parts of Singapore?
Yes. So it's always in my thoughts to expand horseshoe crab beyond the northwestern shores and beyond just collecting sightings from citizen science. Looking to literally expand horseshoe crab through the different parts of Singapore, especially the more important habitats in the east and the south of Singapore. However, a lot of these efforts cannot be done without a team of volunteers. And perhaps I didn't like that Nature Society runs on I would say 99.9% volunteers. We only have 3 paid staff. These three paid staff are just doing finance and outreach. So all the activities that you see from Nature Society is actually run by volunteers and volunteers alone. So, and this activity itself is also dependent on the timetable. And being volunteers, we are only able to commit our time over the weekends. So if we are able to increase our pool of volunteers, hopefully a handful of you from today could join us. I would believe that with a greater pool of volunteers, we're able to expand this to more areas of Singapore and perhaps have more leaders coming up on board as well.
Lester, Jerry had asked about the mating season. Which time of the year do they normally lay eggs? Perhaps you can talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so the mating season happened to coincide with the migratory periods of birds. So that would be between the June period all the way to December. However, in Singapore, we do have 2 peak periods, one at the later part of the year and one between April period. So those are the peak periods where we have mating horseshoe crabs that we can find on the shores, especially so for mangrove horseshoe crabs. So during the mating seasons in other places of the world, not really in Singapore, as I haven't really observed much of them, is that they coincide with the migratory periods of the birds, and the birds rely on this mating horseshoe crab periods where they lay their eggs and using their eggs as food source during their migratory path through the world as well. So yeah.
Okay, and someone asked if we know of any local poaching that has taken place.
Okay, this is a very sensitive question to me. There has not been any case highlighted up on social media or anywhere on local poaching. But if you were to take a trip down to the different fishing areas, I will not name them, you're able to actually see horseshoe crabs as bycatch or perhaps even served in restaurants near those fishing areas. And a lot of time, I heard from members of public that these dishes are actually kept under the menu. So I've been to these places many times, and I've not been able to find any evidence of them selling horseshoe crabs. So perhaps someone here, the next time you see a horseshoe crab being served on the plate by anyone, a nice discreet photo of perhaps your own table from your relatives or friends, you could take a picture, send them up to us. That will help us in our case in curbing horseshoe crab being served. Horseshoe crabs as bycatch, it's all right if they release back to the wild. It's not all right if they have this bycatch and they start selling them just by the streets. So if you do see them, to take a picture, notify the authorities on One Service app. Yeah, so you could literally download One Service app on Google Play Store, Apple Play Store, and you could just report the incident as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lester. Thank you everyone for your questions and for spending time with us today. We've just overrun just a little bit. So we want to thank you once again for joining us on this Saturday afternoon. And Lester here is showing us the link so which you can follow us. We will be posting this recording on our social media pages. We will do it on our Facebook page, and where possible, we'll try and explore the YouTube pages as well, other pages. We hope that you will continue to follow us and support us. As a non-profit and non-governmental society, we run mostly on volunteers. So if you'd like to support our work, you can join us once we're able to get out to the mudflats, come and join us in our activities. And also any form of donation that you can share with us would be very helpful, no matter how small an amount helps an organization like ourselves. A lot of the work that we want to do is limited to the amount of funding that we have available to us. So obviously more funding means more work is possible, especially in terms of doing tracking and collecting more data about these animals. So do support us in any way. Go to our website, support us on social media, join us as a member. We have lots of other activities besides marine activities. So when you go to our website, you'll be able to see all the other interest groups that the Nature Society has as well. Once again, thank you for joining us on this Saturday afternoon, and apologize if we are unable to get to all your questions. Do send us an email, drop us a note, write a nice comment in our Facebook page, and we hope to see all of you someday on the mudflat. Take care and be safe out there.
Thank you.